Hello, everyone. It's Granny again, and we're here continuing our series on Where is Sebastian Rogers? Excuse me. Come on in, take a seat at my table, grab a beverage. We've got some things to go over tonight. For those of you who may not know Sebastian, um, he is a 15-year-old autistic male who went missing sometime in the late hours of February 25th to the early morning hours of February 26th of this year. He's going to be 16 December 7th, which is next month, just a few weeks away. Um, he vanished without a trace from his home in Sumner County, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Sebastian has dirty blonde hair, brown eyes. He's 5'5", weighs between 110 and 120 pounds. He wears black square frame glasses. Some things about Sebastian: he doesn't like to be barefoot. He has trouble with making friends, social interactions. Favorite color is green, and he just likes all kinds of music. I've been told his favorite song isn't The Eye of the Tiger. Haven't been able to confirm that yet. If anybody knows, please email me the link for that, where his dad says what his favorite song is. Okay. So tonight, guys, I actually wanted to share something with you. It's an update from Nick and Dog's team, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. I'll pull it up because it's really, really interesting. Okay, so it says, One World Media, public update on the search for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, November 13th, 2024. Since our last update on November 11th, we have intensified efforts across multiple states and continue to make significant progress in the search for 15-year-old Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Following recent developments, including our fluid discussions with the incoming administration and the launch of Sebastian's Army as a One World initiative, we are leveraging every resource available to locate Sebastian and dismantle any obstacles hindering the investigation. The background on current efforts. On November 11th, we announced the creation of Sebastian's Army, an enduring initiative under the One World umbrella designed to support Sebastian's case and future searches for missing persons. This effort will mobilize public support, utilize advanced data analytics, and ensure ongoing public safety. In addition, we established regular discussions with President-elect Donald J. Trump's incoming administration to secure federal resources and support for our work. New developments as of today. Number 1, clearing of tips. At Night has systematically cleared several dozen tips from Washington, Oregon, and surrounding regions. Working closely with licensed investigators in each state, we are reviewing and investigating every lead to ensure nothing is overlooked. Number 2, active surveillance in 8 states. Surveillance operations are now underway in 8 states, spanning from Clinton, New York, to Seattle, Washington. Findings from these states are shared with the respective state authorities and the FBI's D.C. field office, with whom we forward material to regularly. 3, call for continued vigilance. We urge the public to continue submitting tips, especially in Tennessee and surrounding areas. Please remain vigilant. Report any suspicious activity, and if you know something, say something. We are committed to uncovering the truth and will persist until every lead is followed. 4, dismantling obstructive networks. To date, At Night has dismantled 3 networks that have interfered with efforts to locate Sebastian. Our team has been instructed to treat this as a criminal investigation, utilizing the same methods we employ to dismantle criminal financial networks. We are actively countering any any attempts to obstruct our search. Number 5. Ongoing briefings with the incoming administration. At Night continues to meet with the incoming administration 3 times weekly, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, providing detailed reports on investigative challenges, including interference from hostile witnesses and individuals of interest. Additionally, we have been connected with the soon-to-be U.S. Attorney General to discuss increased resources and support for a swift resolution. 6. Identification of misinformation ground zero. At Night has located what we believe to be the origin point of targeted misinformation and hateful content that have derailed the investigation. We are collaborating with the FBI and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to pursue criminal charges against individuals and entities responsible for this interference. Number 7. Advanced data analysis through One World. Tips are currently being uploaded into One World's data center, where they will be indexed, categorized, and analyzed using advanced AI technology. This system will help identify anomalies and critical patterns over the coming weeks. 8. Attempted infiltration of at-night systems. We have confirmed that 2 individuals attempted to infiltrate at-night systems by using fake IDs to apply for employment. During the interview process, they provided information that allowed us to conduct background checks and identify pertinent details. Number 9, connection to persons of interest. You guys listen up. This is really interesting. Further investigation revealed that one of these individuals is connected to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers through marriage, not by blood. I'm going to read that again. Further investigation revealed that one of these individuals is connected to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers through marriage, not by blood. The second individual is believed to be wanted on unrelated criminal charges involving trafficking. These individuals have been reported to authorities and further investigations are underway. We remain deeply appreciative of the public's ongoing support. We urge anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. Together, we will continue working tirelessly to bring Sebastian home and hold accountable those who obstruct this critical mission. If you have any information concerning the whereabouts of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, please contact the Sumner County Sheriff's Office at 615-451-3838, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 1-800-TBI-FIND, or via email at tipstotbi@tbi.tn.gov. You may also reach out to your local FBI office, the nearest American embassy or consulate, or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. Alternatively, contact at Dog Bounty Hunter at 833-TELL-DOG, which is 835-5364, or at Night 844-922-3236, or by texting 332-252-3636. Email tips to Most Wanted at manhunt.one. Okay? So, probably the most anonymous way that you can do is by text, the 332-252-3636. But any of these, you can remain anonymous if you wish. So isn't that interesting, guys? 2 persons of interest revealed. 1 connected to Sebastian through marriage, not by blood. What does that mean? They're not a blood relative of Katie, and they're not a blood relative of Seth. Through marriage. Well, Seth's only been married once. What can we conclude here? I'll leave that for you guys to think about, okay? And tonight, we are actually going to move on to the video of Chris and Katie with Nancy Grace. I know that I watched this. I know I have a lot of thoughts about it, especially after what we just read, guys. I'm kind of in shock in a way, and then in a way I'm not. But let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen, and we will watch Nancy Grace with Chris and Katie. All right, here we go.
February 26th, Monday morning, 6 a.m. From everything we can tell, that is the moment that Sebastian's mom and stepdad realize he's gone. For just one moment, imagine that. You go in your child's room where you find your child every single school day morning and you wake them up, but at 6 a.m., he's not there. Can you imagine what must have gone through their minds? First of all, I want you to hear what his bio mom, Katie Proudfoot, says. Listen.
When I woke him up for school, he wasn't there. I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
Can't find him. Where is he? And in the last days, we learned that the official law enforcement search is actually scaling back. This as TikTokers and YouTubers are flooding the area, conducting their own searches. Listen to Eric Craddock, Chief Deputy, Sumner County Sheriff's.
Really wanted to come to the community and ask for your help. We need you to search your properties every day, morning and night. If there's a shed or a crawl space or up under your mobile home or a tarp that's in your yard, check it every morning and check it every night. Look for any details that something has been disturbed. If there's a shirt that was there today that wasn't there yesterday, notify us. You can really help us by searching your own property twice a day. Like I said, we're operating under the assumption that Sebastian walked off, and we really need your help to ensure that he is brought home safely.
We are trying to determine what happened when this young boy, an autistic young boy, seemingly walks out of his own home in the middle of the night, we think, barefoot. How did that happen? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Crime Stories and on SiriusXM 111. We've read a lot online. We've seen a lot of theories, a lot of speculation. But let's start with what we know to be true. Joining me right now, an all-star panel. But first, I'm going to go to two special guests joining us, Katie and Chris Proudfoot. This is Sebastian's biological mother and his stepfather, who were in their home with Sebastian when he goes missing. To both of the Proudfoots, thank you for being with us. I want to go straight back to when Sebastian goes missing. Miss Proudfoot, I understand that the day before, which would have been Sunday, if I've got the information correct, that you guys went out, you went to dinner, you went to somewhere, I believe you said BJ's, where he had a, quote, colossal popcorn. Then you came home that night, and around 9 p.m., you tell Sebastian to go to bed. He says, okay, and goes to his room. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That night, I understand from previous statements you've made that you went to bed around midnight. Is that correct?
It is.
And to you, Mr. Proudfoot, Chris Proudfoot, did you also go to bed at midnight or before or after?
No, ma'am. We went to bed around the same time because we were on the phone together.
And
He was not home.
please excuse any of my questions. I'm simply trying to find out more about that night. Do you two sleep in the same bedroom?
He wasn't actually in the home at all that weekend. Christopher
You were
wasn't.
not home.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So where were you, Mr. Proudfoot?
I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
How far away is that?
3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep.
And what were you doing in Memphis?
Working.
3 hours and 37 minutes from doorstep to doorstep. He's got that down to the minute. How about that, guys?
Where do you work?
I'm currently working, or was working, at the St. Jude Children's Hospital construction project.
Yes, I'm very familiar with St. Jude's. You said you were working there. Are you no longer working there?
Right now, that's up in the air.
Well, you've been gone ever since Sebastian went missing, so I understand. When you are home, do you two sleep in the same bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a 3-bedroom home?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is your room as it relates to Sebastian's room?
It's on the opposite end of the house. The master bedroom's on one side, and the other 2 bedrooms are on the other side of the house.
Okay, so your master bedroom is on one side of the house and Sebastian's room is on the other side of the house. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you have a 3rd bedroom that I believe you keep for your other daughter. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that Faith? Is your other daughter named Faith?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So where is Faith's bedroom as it relates to Sebastian's bedroom?
It's in the back side of the house. Sebastian's bedroom
So
is on the
it's-
front side of the house.
Okay. So his bedroom is away from Faith's bedroom and away from your master bedroom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is Sebastian's room on a top floor or a ground level?
We have a ranch style house. It's a 1.5 story, so everything is flat, and then you have the bonus room above the garage.
Okay. So his is on ground floor, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That morning, was there any sign of a break-in through a window, a front door, a back door, a sliding glass door, anything at all?
No, ma'am.
Okay. No sign of forced entry. Was anything taken from the home at all?
Not that we could find anything. We couldn't find anything missing.
I want to circle back to Sebastian's shoes regarding if anything was missing. Do you have a burglar alarm?
No, ma'am.
Do you have a Ring doorbell cam?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Have the two of you taken a polygraph?
Katie hesitated. They both hesitated, but Katie hesitated when they asked if they had a burglar alarm. She works for Brink, guys. I supposedly didn't have any kind of alarm system when she works for Brinks, and didn't have a Ring doorbell door cam. I don't know. Do you guys see the difference in Chris's demeanor compared to other interviews that we have seen? I'm just wondering if you guys have caught anything. Because I'm definitely seeing it. and I just wondered if you guys saw it at all. But let me get back in here. Okay. We'll continue on.
Graph.
I have.
I have not.
Would you be willing to?
I've offered and volunteered on many occasions to take a polygraph, and I was told directly by law enforcement because of my whereabouts, I did not need one.
I understand. Ms. Proudfoot, did you pass your polygraph?
I did.
Those questions out of the way. Was Faith in the home when Sebastian went missing?
No.
No, ma'am.
Does anyone else have a key to your home beside your immediate family?
No.
No, ma'am.
That night, Miss Proudfoot, at midnight when you went to bed, what did you do until midnight?
I had been reading a chapter that I needed to, and I had been talking to my husband on the phone. I was falling asleep on him, so that's when he told me it was around midnight. He told me to go ahead and put the dogs up and go to bed, and that's what I did. I got up, put the dogs where they sleep, and then I myself went to bed.
Where do they sleep?
They have a big pen.
A pen, is it inside or outside?
Inside.
Inside. That reminds me of another question. Do you guys have a motion sensor light or lights on the outside of your house?
Yes, we do have lights on the outside of our house.
Did they activate that night?
They're not motion censored. We have lights.
Were they
but not
on that
motion
night?
censored.
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Were they on that night? So the lights were out the whole night?
Yes, ma'am. We don't typically turn the floodlights on.
Were there any lights outside the house on at all?
Just my little solar lights that we have in the garden.
There's
Yep.
2 lights on the side of the house above the garage that are on at all times.
Oh, yeah, those are on.
Oh, there's a light above the garage that's on at all times?
There's 2. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so those lights were on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I heard you say earlier, Mr. Proudfoot, that your neighbors have been very, very forthcoming with their Ring camera info. And I was
Yes, ma'am.
trying to determine if any lights were on, what, if anything, they may have caught. But I understand from your previous interviews that nothing of any evidentiary value was caught. And also, in another statement you gave, I understand that the video of the 2 flashlights, and I'm saying that with air quotes, that's not exactly what that was at all. We now don't believe that 2 flashlights were observed around your home. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're very correct.
Okay. Question regarding your vehicles. Ms. Proudfoot, what make and model do you drive?
I drive a Infinity SUV.
Year?
2017.
And, sir, what do you drive?
I drive a diesel truck, Chevrolet.
Year?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's a 2021, I think.
So,
I find this funny because they're answering questions that I think on other channels they would not answer. But they are answering every question that Nancy Grace is telling them. They're not saying no. They're not saying I don't want to give that information. They're they're very matter of fact. This is only, let's see, this was on the 25th of March. So it's about a month since Sebastian went missing. Okay? Now here's my thing. As a mother, I would still be really distraught. I know if that were me, I'd still be really distraught. But Katie seems totally fine here. Hi, Green Jules Denord. I hope I said that right. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate it. All right, let's continue on with this.
So your Infinity SUV was parked in the garage or outside the garage that night, Miss Proudfoot?
In the garage.
In the garage. And Mr. Proudfoot, your vehicle was on location in Memphis. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So there's only one car at the home. Is that right?
There was actually a work vehicle in the driveway at the time as well, but it hasn't moved. We can't give out that information because we don't have permission from her work.
I don't understand that. What?
About the make and model of the vehicle.
I have a work van that was also parked in the driveway.
Why is that? If it's out in the driveway where people can see it, why is that privileged information?
We just don't have permission from her company to divulge that information.
Have you asked?
No, ma'am, we have not. Nobody's asked us
So
that
that
question.
was-
to be honest with you.
Okay, so you have a work van. Question to you, Miss Proudfoot, what do you do for a living?
I am an installation technician.
That night, was the work van blocking your driveway? Could someone go in and out of your driveway?
Hi, Keto Kim.
The van is parked at the back of my driveway, so someone can pull in, yes.
Got it. Do you park your Infinity SUV in the garage or outside the garage?
In the garage.
In the garage. Do you have an automatic garage door?
With the clicker.
Right. Do you leave that up or down at night?
Down.
Could anybody lift it up? Like, is there an on and off button outside, or do you have to know a code or have the clicker to open it?
You'd have to know the code or have the clicker.
Does Sebastian know the code?
Not to the garage door, but to the man doors.
Not to the garage door, but to the house doors?
The regular door, yes.
So is there a code to get in your home, or do you use a regular key?
There's a code.
And he knows that code.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, they actually did refuse to answer some of this on some of those other channels. I find hilarious, but they did refuse to say what kind of vehicle, which now makes me question things a little bit. What kind of vehicle she drove for work and which was parked in. Nancy had a good point. She said, well, if it's parked in your driveway for everyone to see, why is that, confidential? And I agree. Why is that confidential? It shouldn't be.
Question. I'm just trying to figure out how he would have gotten out, or if somebody came into the home. Could they have gotten through the garage door? No, unless they know the code or had the clicker, which they did not. Do you lock your doors at night?
Yes, ma'am.
Could he have left on his own through those doors?
He could, yes, ma'am.
But I heard in another interview where Mr. Proudfoot said he was not a, quote, wanderer. He didn't wander around. He had never left the home before on his own. Is that right?
Correct. We haven't had issues with him running or taking off in the past.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions regarding the doors. Do you have any home surveillance, anything at all that would have given us an idea or a clue if the door had been opened or not, or a window?
Not directly from our house.
Well, then from where?
That's what we were hoping that neighborhood ring cameras and may have picked something up.
Gotcha. I want to go back to that night. You said you were up till midnight. You were reading something. What were you reading?
A chapter for school.
A chapter for school. Are you in school?
I was, yes, ma'am. I've since dropped my classes for the time.
What are you studying?
So we are going through the interviews in chronological order. This is the first time that Katie has brought up schooling and that she was reading a chapter that night. She has talked about being on the phone with Chris before. She's even talked about the thud, which I don't remember if we're going to hear that here or not, but this is the first time that we heard her talking about reading a chapter for school.
Business administration.
Gotcha. Where do you go to school?
DeVry.
So that night you go to bed at midnight after you've been talking to Mr. Proudfoot on the phone. You put the dogs away in a cage, a crate, inside the home, and you go to bed. Did you check on Sebastian at that time?
I did not.
Okay. Do you normally?
Not typically. Since he's gotten older, I've not been checking on him as frequently throughout the night because normally he's good to go in his room once he goes to bed.
Earlier you had stated you heard a noise in his room before you went to bed. What time was that?
Around 10 o'clock.
10 p.m. What did it sound like?
Just a thud.
A thud. You stated that you said, look, I don't care what you're doing in there, go to bed. Is that right?
I was on the couch, which is near his room, and I said, Bubba, did you fall out of the bed? And he said, no, ma'am. And I said, well, whatever you're doing in there, knock it off and go to sleep.
So you heard his voice at 10 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any idea what the sound actually was?
I do not, no.
If he were to go out his window, what would he step on?
Mulch and bushes.
Did you say mulch or mush?
Mulch.
Mulch.
Mulch. Okay. Got it. Has he ever gone out the window before?
No, ma'am.
Is his room on the front of the house or the back of the house?
Front.
Front. Do any of your neighbors' ring cams point toward your house? Could they pick that up?
They do, but it's so dark that they can only see it after it gets so dark at night. They can only see certain things where there's light.
I thought there were the two lights on
the opposite side of the house.
Okay. Can we talk about Sebastian's shoes? Why are you convinced Sebastian left without shoes on? Or are you?
Well, the reason that came about is because all of his shoes are accounted for inside the house still.
Are you positive?
I'm positive.
How do you know what clothes he was wearing?
The clothes that we described are the ones I saw him in when he went to bed.
That morning, you woke up at 6 o'clock. Is that the normal time you wake up?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a heavy sleeper?
Off and on.
Do you take any medication at night that would make you sleep?
No, ma'am.
But you heard nothing.
I did not know.
So we know he is alive and well at 10 p.m. At 6 a.m. He's gone. You say he's never left before. Is that right?
Correct. He's never run off before.
And could I confirm, where was his bio dad at the time he went missing?
I believe he was at work in Nashville.
Had there been any family argument or altercation prior to him going missing?
No, ma'am.
And Mr. Proudfoot, when did you leave town?
Early February.
So you had been gone for days before he went missing. Is that correct?
Correct,
Weeks.
ma'am.
Had you visited home since you left?
You said from when I initially left?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I came home February 26th, the morning I was told he was missing.
From the time that you left for the job in Memphis to February 26th, did you visit the home?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I was home. I can't give exact dates. Law enforcement has told me not to provide exact dates, but I had been home multiple times prior to February. And then I left early February and then didn't come back till February 26th, the morning he was missing.
So you were not home from the time you left early February till Feb 26. Is that right?
Correct, ma'am.
Where were you living in Memphis?
I have an RV trailer that I stay in at an RV park.
RV park. Okay. Following back up on that morning, you search the home, Miss Proudfoot. Then you get in your vehicle and you start searching. Did Sebastian know how to drive?
No, ma'am.
Was your car in the same location when you woke up that morning as it was the night before?
Yes, ma'am.
Has your car been searched by police?
Multiple times. Yes, ma'am.
Have scent dogs looked at your car?
Yes, ma'am.
So your car's in the same place. You get in the car, you start looking in the neighborhood for him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you call Mr. Proudfoot, right?
I believe I was already on the phone with him at that point.
Okay. Question. Who called 911?
I did.
You did.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
time?
Without looking at a call log, I can't give you the exact time, but on or about 6:20.
And had you guys been talking on the phone before 6 a.m. or did you initially call Mr. Proudfoot at the time you realized Sebastian was gone?
I called him when I realized Sebastian was gone.
Have you guys been out looking for Sebastian?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We were given information that you guys have left the home. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I'm going back to work.
You're going back to work. What about you, Miss Proudfoot?
And I'm not going back to work. Not yet, at least.
Did you leave the home also, Miss Proudfoot?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
To accompany my husband going back to work, and then I'm coming back.
Okay, when will you be back? Do you know yet?
No, not yet.
Are you concerned about being away while the search is ongoing?
Absolutely, I am.
What do you guys think? Nancy's getting right to it, right? She's asking the really tough questions. And they're answering. I'm just amazed. She's pointing out, aren't you concerned about not being home. I mean, she's literally having to pull it out of them because they're just answering yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. She's literally having to pull it out of them, you know, what she's trying to get at. And I think she's doing a really good job, and I'm amazed at the information they're giving. I think Chris did kind of talk around a little bit about when he left and when he was back. Um, she was specifically asking about the month of February, and Chris went into, before that. But she brought him right back around. So let's continue on.
Yeah.
Then why are you going?
Because my son could be anywhere, and we're looking everywhere and anywhere.
I've got a question for you.
Yes,
I want
ma'am.
to find out about Mr. Proudfoot hitting Sebastian with a belt. What happened?
That was actually several years ago, and it
To
was
Mr. Proudfoot.
one-
To Mr. Proudfoot. To Mr. Proudfoot.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Proudfoot, what happened?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought you were asking Katie. Sebastian had gotten in trouble. He got caught
Exactly,
lying.
Green. No
And
motion.
I had asked him, I said, hey, you got to have a punishment for this. He says, yes, sir. And I said, okay. So I gave him a swat with a belt on his buttocks on the outside of his clothes, one swat.
What did he lie about?
Honestly, I don't remember at the time, but it was probably something dealing with school because that's majority where his issues lie.
Did he have other issues at school?
Some behavioral stuff, but nothing too crazy.
What kind of behavioral stuff?
He has a hard time. He's awkwardly socially like blending in with students. So it's a little, he's trying to figure out how to do it, but respecting people's space. He gets a little too close. And then kids don't really accept that too much. So it kind of causes an issue. But he'll not stop and he continues on. So then it causes an issue. And instead of being honest about it, he'll lie like, no, I didn't. Okay, Sebastian.
We're lying about doing.
Was
work.
that the first time? Was that the first time you had ever hit him with a belt?
Yes, ma'am. The one and only time, actually.
When was this?
Years ago, ma'am.
Any idea how many? 3, 10, 1?
It probably at least 3 years ago.
I don't understand how that turned into a CPS or Child Protective Services complaint. How were they alerted that you hit him with a belt?
That did not turn into a CPS service call.
There were other CPS reports, right? Were they regarding your other child?
There is one in regards to my daughter that I know of out in New Mexico with my ex-wife and myself.
What happened?
At the time, my ex-wife had fled to New Mexico with my daughter. We were going through a custody and a divorce case at that time. And at the time, when I'd call and try to check in on my daughter, I could never reach my ex-wife at that time. So a welfare check was requested. Law enforcement told me to call CPS if I had concerns. So I called CPS. Law enforcement did make a welfare call, and that was it.
Okay. Yeah, I do believe that Nancy was a prosecutor at one point in time. So that's why she asks the questions the way that she does. But she's very good at it. I agree. Green Jewel says only time but doesn't know the reason. And yeah, I had someone, I think, in my comments say that um, every parent has whipped their child. And I was like, no, no. In fact, I know of people, yeah, no, that is not true. I don't believe that. Um, and you guys can agree or disagree if you want to, but I just don't agree that every parent has whipped their child. Um, you know, and a belt with a belt for lying. I mean, I got hit with a belt when I was a child, and I just never agreed with it and didn't use it on my children. Um, and that's what I call whipping, like with a belt. Or my my mom said that they were whipped with a stick. They had to go out and get their own stick for their whipping. Um, so you know, I think it gets better and better each generation, right? Went from whipping, well, they got the belt too, but they also got this hit with a switch, a branch, and then I got the belt once or twice that I can remember um, when I was really little, and then I never used that on my children, right? So I don't believe that every parent whips their child. Yeah, and Chris, it dawned on me, and that's was one of the reasons why I stopped the video. Because in looking at these two guys, do you think that, my opinion, off the wall, right? But they are so calm, are they not? Did they take something, do you think? Because how is Chris being so calm with Nancy Grace when she's asking some really, really difficult questions? And I mean, we've heard him get really, really upset with other people that have asked very, much less difficult questions. So, um, I don't know. Tell me what you think. I almost feel like my opinion, like they're on something or something. I don't know.
Then how does that turn into a CPS complaint against you?
I have no idea, ma'am. There's a lot of misinformation out there right now in regards to my New Mexico case that actually has no relevance to the Sebastian case.
Then was there even a CPS complaint against you in New Mexico?
Not that I am aware of. And my attorney and myself are well educated on my case, and there's nothing that we know of.
Was there a TRO taken out against you regarding
Yes, ma'am.
your daughter?
Not a TRO, but a TPO.
A temporary protective order. Why was that taken out?
So in regards to that case, my ex-wife had a TPO put against her in Tennessee at the time. When we went to court, that got dissolved. I was ordered to hand my daughter back over to my ex-wife at the time. She gets in a truck. She fleds to New Mexico. 2 days later, she files one in retaliation.
Is it still in place?
No, ma'am, that was dropped within, I think, 2 weeks of it being put in place.
I've got a question about the belt incident. You're telling me that was the only time that you ever hit Sebastian with a belt.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're also telling me that did not make it to CPS?
No, ma'am, that did not.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
regarding Faith's furniture.
Yes,
A few
ma'am.
days after Sebastian goes missing, did you replace furniture in Faith's room?
No, ma'am. I have not replaced any furniture in my daughter's room.
Is there any new furniture in the home?
Yes, ma'am. There's a bed that was given to me, and it's currently in my garage.
Has anything been taken out of the home?
No, ma'am.
I was curious about a statement that Miss Proudfoot made earlier that canine dogs.
So now it's a bed, not a mattress, that was given to him? I always heard it was a mattress, didn't you guys?
Hit on the barn around the home and near a retention pond. Did that happen?
I'm not sure about the barn, but the retention pond, yes.
Because law enforcement says the dogs did not hit. But Miss
There's been
Proudfoot says they did hit around the retention pond.
So there's been a lot of miscommunication in regards to what is and what is not. To help clear that up, law enforcement has actually spoken directly with me, showed me a few things. What I can tell you is from day one, there was 5 dogs that started the scent for the search. And then after that, from the next 8 days out from that, there have been dogs from all over the country that have come in and done searches and had scent hits in various locations. But I would say a certain percentage of them tend to go toward the same spot, which would have been a retention pond.
So the law enforcement dogs did not hit on the retention pond. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying they did. There was at least 3 that I know for a fact that did hit on the retention pond.
And the pond has been drained, correct? And there was nothing there.
Yes, ma'am. They have walked it, drained it, and there's nothing. The retention pond was only knee deep anyways.
On one occasion, Mr. Proudfoot, you stated that you and Mrs. Proudfoot have been, quote, vetted and cleared of foul play. That was stated on Chronicles of Olivia. Is that true? What do you mean by that?
Yes. So after working with law enforcement of all agencies, they have actually told us that there is no foul play, no nefarious issues. We've been cleared of all wrongdoing. We are working extremely cooperative with all law enforcement agencies at any point in time that they've called, come to the house, anything.
Oh my gosh, she is lying right there. He's actually lying because he said that they told him that they are cleared and they are not cleared. I know that Nancy knows better, right? But they have not been cleared, guys. We're 9 months in, and law enforcement has stated outright that no one has been cleared in this case.
Was Sebastian angry or upset before he disappeared?
No, ma'am.
Not to my knowledge.
What is your theory about where is Sebastian?
I wish I knew where he was, to be honest.
Your theory.
I think it's possible that someone has my son,
Why?
because I feel like if he had been close to the house or had walked off, that we would found him by now with as many people as we had searching.
Have you checked his social media?
He doesn't have social media.
Have you checked his phone?
His phone has been thoroughly checked, yes, ma'am.
Have you handed your phones to police, both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Both.
ma'am, we have.
Has police searched all of your devices, your laptop, your iPad, everything?
Everything. Yes, ma'am.
Other than you, Miss Proudfoot, who is the last person that saw or heard Sebastian alive the Sunday before he went missing?
Two of his aunts, a cousin, and the staff where we had dinner.
And that was at BJ's the night before or the bowling alley?
So BJ's, and then we went to the bowling alley, and then after the bowling alley, we went to dinner before coming home.
I want to follow up again.
She just said 2 aunts were with them and cousins when they went out for dinner. And she has stated before that it was just her and Sebastian for dinner. So which is it? Right? Which is it? And that's the thing, we're hearing so many inconsistencies. And now with what, we talked about earlier in the conversation, that there's 2 people of interest that they're looking, that law enforcement and One World Media at Night Investigations are looking into. And one person is known to have ties with trafficking, and the other has ties to Sebastian by marriage, but not by blood. I'm just thinking about that as we're watching this. They're sitting in the RV right now. Chai, wait, Ellie has not stated this, or am I wrong? No, Ellie hasn't said much of anything. But the investigation agency that is working on this has said this. And they have turned all the information over to law enforcement. Law enforcement really hasn't come out and said hardly anything in this case. So, the one thing that I can say is that At Night Investigation Agency is being upfront, and they're giving regular updates on the case. Sonia says, it reminds me of the summer. Yeah. Yeah, it does. All right, let's continue on.
Again, on the dogs hitting. Earlier, Ms. Prophet had stated the dogs hit around the house, the barn, and at the retention pond. Is that correct?
I don't know about the barn, but I do know that they did track to the pond. Yes.
Did the dogs also hit around the house?
Yes, ma'am.
On the outside of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
Were they scent dogs or cadaver dogs?
They brought in both cadaver and tracking dogs.
Which dog hit? A cadaver dog or a scent dog?
Scent dog.
It's all been scent dogs that have hit. The cadaver dogs have not hit on anything that we know of.
What do you believe Sebastian was wearing when he disappeared? And would that have been what he slept in?
Yes. So the clothes, the black sweatpants with the white stripes and the long sleeve black shirt, that is what he went to bed in. And the reason that I believe he was still wearing those clothes is because when we searched, I did not find those clothes in the house. So I have to assume that that's what he was still wearing.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you say that's what he wore when he went to bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Joining us right now, in addition to Katie Proudfoot and Chris Proudfoot, the bio mom and stepdad of Sebastian, an all-star panel. First to Brian Trasher joining us, Vice President of the Cajun Navy, who has joined the search. Brian, thank you for being with us. Who asked you to join the search?
Well, we had deployed a team up to Nashville, Tennessee last week in response to the missing college student Riley Strain. And we stayed up there until he was found. While we were in the area, we had a lot of people reaching out to us on social media, saying that there was a young boy who had been missing for several weeks that was only about 20 miles away from where we were. So we talked to a few people, got some information, and decided to deploy part of our team that was already up there to Sumter County to investigate and see what we could do to help out.
You went on your own. Were you asked to join?
We were asked to join. I'm not sure specifically who some of our people talk to, but we get requests all the time, and we'll reach out. We'll try to get either a family member or a close friend of the family, just so we know we're talking to people connected to the family. And somebody had reached out and asked us to join, since we already had assets so close to Sumner County.
Tell me what you have been doing, Brian Trasher. Everyone with me, the VP of the Cajun Navy, who has joined in the search. You can find them at CajunNavyRelief.com. Brian, tell me what you guys have been doing.
Just real for the United Cajun Navy, we're the original group that everybody hears about. There's other groups that use the Cajun Navy name to try to fundraise off of our efforts. Cajun Navy Relief is not affiliated with us at all. We are www.unitedcajunnavy.org. We're the original, we're the real ones.
Again, what exactly have you been doing on the search?
So we've had our own canine team who is already participating in the search for Riley Strain, up there searching around. We've talked with the lead investigator with Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, Agent Simmons. We've talked a lot with him and trying to coordinate efforts, because we always try to coordinate with law enforcement to make sure we're not getting in the way, duplicating efforts, or putting out any.
You know what, Mr. Trasher, let me just cut the chase here. Isn't it true that this weekend, pursuant to your search, that cadaver dogs hit in an area that had been closed off because of a prior hurricane, and it is on federal property? Bones and other items were found at that time. I found that very odd, as it would relate to Sebastian. Even if it was Sebastian, his body would not have been skeletonized at this time. Can you tell me now that what was found over the weekend is not connected to Sebastian? Yes, no?
No.
Not connected to Sebastian.
That hit was, yeah, that's correct. That hit was not connected to Sebastian.
Okay. Joining me also, in addition to Brian Trasher, who has been leading the Cajun Navy in its search for Sebastian. Hold on, Brian. Other than those hits, have there been any other dog hits in and around the home or elsewhere?
Not from our canine team.
I'm very concerned, Brian, as you can imagine, because LE law enforcement has stated there were no canine hits outside the home, which I find very, very disturbing. Because if he had gone outside, particularly barefoot, there would definitely have been a scent trail. Now, we're hearing from the Proudfoots that there was a hit around that retention pond. How far is that pond from your home, Mr. Proudfoot?
Less than probably half a mile if you walk the whole path.
Is it through wooded area? Would he have had to walk through the woods to get there?
No, ma'am. You can actually walk either the main road or the subdivision. So the construction site is a subdivision, new addition that's being built, and they have a road that's going to be tied into our subdivision. So you could actually walk up that way, or you could walk to the main road and walk into it.
Did Sebastian ever sleepwalk?
No, ma'am.
So he would have had to leave the house undetected by Katie and walk all the way to that retention pond. Did the dogs follow the trail a half a mile?
Yes, ma'am.
They followed the trail all the way to that retention pond?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
That's very curious, as they are saying the dogs didn't pick anything up. Back to you, Brian Trasher. Did you guys search anywhere other than that federal property where the false positive was? Yes, no?
See, guys, she called Chris out on that because Chris and Katie have been saying that the dogs picked up a scent outside their home all the way to the retention pond. Of course, they're going to say that, right? Because the truth is that there was no evidence of a scent outside the home, which means Sebastian could not have walked out of the home on his own. He would have had to been carried or went through the garage in the car or something. That's the only way that he could have left the home that night.
No.
Joining me is Courtney Lasky, high-profile behavior analyst, autism expert, chief clinical officer with Little Starts Therapy. Courtney, thank you for being with us. At this juncture, we know Sebastian to be most likely with people he doesn't know, if in fact he is still alive. How would that affect a young boy with autism?
It would affect him greatly. Based on the diagnosis of autism, we know that they typically have deficits with communication, social skills, and they display some rigid and repetitive behaviors. If, in fact, he is with someone else who does not know him well, that would be entirely out of his routine. He could be engaging in behaviors that he hasn't engaged in before. He could be looking for an escape. He could be looking to get out of those aversive situations. We know that not every autistic individual will wander, but those who do wander, 36%, it's to get out of an aversive situation. It's to get away from something that's overwhelming or overstimulating to them.
Ms. Proudfoot, does he know your phone number? Can he call you if he could get access to a phone?
We have gone over my phone number. I don't know that in a high stress time he would remember it, but yes, I have talked to him my phone number.
Was he ever allowed to go visit friends' homes?
He didn't get invited, but had he been, yes, we have had play dates in the past.
Would he go there on foot?
No, ma'am.
Joining me now is Lauren Conlon, investigative journalist, host of the Outlier podcast, host of Corruption, What Happened to Grant Solomon, and you can find her at laurenconlon.com. Lauren, thank you so much for being with us. What can you tell me about that stretch of road, if anything, between Sebastian's home and that retention pond?
Well, look, Nancy, I mean, I think like everything else about this case, it is very confusing because the public hasn't heard much from the police. We haven't heard much from the Proudfoots, obviously, when it comes to that, or Seth Rogers. And now I'm learning a lot here as I hear Chris Proudfoot say, okay, we can't speak about this because of law enforcement. And now with the Cajun Navy coming in, I think a lot of us are very excited that they are going to basically canvass this road. And they are actually telling civilians to hang back. Nobody needs to search this anymore. You need to stop. You need to stop helping and let us work with law enforcement and take over. Now, I called the Sumner County Sheriff's Office yesterday because of all the misinformation going around. And I got to be honest with you, they didn't even know what was going on with this road, with the recreation search. They were either very elusive or they were very confused. But either way, it's very concerning because the people, as well as myself, I don't live in Tennessee. I cover a lot of Tennessee. We are very concerned for Sebastian. We are very concerned. And so,
okay, so let me just stop you right there, Ms. Conlon. Ms. Conlon, everyone is concerned, but let me remind everyone that law enforcement is under no duty at all to tell us or anybody else, including the Proudfoots, anything. They are not representing the Proudfoots. They are representing justice, and they will do what they have to do. The fact that they're not giving us a blow by blow is their business. Does it mean they're stymied? I don't know. Does it mean they know more than we think they do? I don't know the answer to that. But just because they're not releasing an ongoing investigative file is not a concern to me. At this juncture, I am collecting facts in the best way I know how. Now, regarding that route from the Proudfoot home to the retention pond, is it your understanding, Lauren Conlon, that there were no hits by scent or cadaver dogs along that route?
Correct, Nancy. It is my understanding there were no hits from the dogs.
It is very confusing. It's
Okay. And I saw somewhere, I'd have to research it, but I saw somewhere where law enforcement said it was actually a false positive, any hit that was done. So that's what I've stood on, because they have said that there was no scent picked up. Green Jewel says air scent versus trail scent. 5 dogs went same way to construction area, I think. First dog, Max, took the plunge. And the thing is that pond, and I saw it was CJ and Narc Divers were there, and one other dive team that became, I don't know, there were some issues there, but they actually walked it as well. And it was only, knee deep, but because of the mud, you sunk in. And so that's why they wanted to go through that retention pond with CJ, Narc Divers, and somebody else, that they wanted to go through that retention pond with, kind of walking through, which was very difficult because you can sink in that mud. And they actually were tied off to people on the shore as they were doing that. So that was a really interesting video. You can find it on Evil CJ's channel. I watched that minute by minute when that happened. I don't remember what month it was, but and Green Jewel says, no, I think pond and dumpster dogs indicated something, but it's just my feeling. And Chai says, thank you. Interesting. Not sure what to make of it. I know, right? There's so many questions, so many answers, or answers that we need, right? We need answers. And, I don't know, since I've heard about this with at night, I'm starting to wonder. I wasn't leaning toward trafficking before, guys. I wasn't. Not at all. Now I'm wondering. It just, it's all so mysterious, right? How does a 15-year-old boy just vanish into thin air?
confusing. Sometimes, Lauren, when we try to put together a puzzle, but we're missing a few pieces and we don't know what piece we're missing, you can't put the puzzle together. We're missing things from this puzzle. And right now, I'm on a fact-finding mission. I am pointing the finger at no one because I want to find Sebastian. I want to go to Dr. Jory Crossan joining me. And guys, again, please, Proudfoots, Trasher, Lasky, Conlon, jump in if you have a thought or you want to contradict, because a lot of this is elusive. We don't know everything. To you, Jory Crossan, joining us, former law enforcement, now faculty, St. Leo University, very well-known psychologist and author of Operation SOS. You can find him at drjory.com. Dr. Jory, thank you for being with us. Many people have made much of the fact that when interviewed, the Proudfoots do not look at the camera, they look away, they don't cry, and they don't seem upset. Now, that may or may not mean anything. People can be very upset, crying, screaming, cursing. They may show no emotion at all. They may be numb by the time interviews are happening. I'm very different. When I talk about my fiance's murder or I talk about my dad's death, I still cry, even when I swear I'm not going to. But everyone reacts differently. I'm going to throw this directly to Mr. and Mrs. Proudfoot. Much has been made. I'll ask you. You very often look away, don't look at who's asking you questions, show no emotion. Much has been made of that. And I'd like to hear your response. I'm not judging one way or the other. I'd like to hear your response.
So the fact of not looking at the camera all the time is because a picture of my son is sitting beside me, and I'm looking at him. As far as the crying thing, I have been crying off and on nonstop for a month.
Many people have asked me, why did Miss Proudfoot not call 911 immediately? And here's your chance to answer that.
Because by the time I realized my son was missing and I called my husband, at that point I was hysterical. I was at the point where I couldn't even form words anymore, and my husband is the one who remained calm enough to call them.
And to be honest with you, Miss Grace, the way we live outside of city limits, so you don't call 911 because you get routed to a dispatching hub who asks what's your location, and then they route you to another dispatcher to talk to give this story. I cut all of that out and I called straight to the sheriff's department because they have jurisdiction of where we live. So sorry that I decided to bypass a few steps.
This statement by Chris just makes me angry because it is my personal opinion that he has his buddy at Sumner County Sheriff's Office on speed dial, and that's who he called. And I guess if you've got a buddy that you do things with that's in the sheriff's office, you're going to have him either on speed dial or in your contacts, and it's going to be really easy to call there pretty quickly, right? A couple pushes versus what you dial 911 and then hit the green button, right? Well, it's what go into contacts, hit your person, hit the green button to call. The 911 thing doesn't bother me. I live rural and we call the sheriff. 911 sends you to the same place. I don't like Chris, but this one may be true. It may be, but we have heard that he does have friends at Sumner County. So let's continue on.
Steps and go straight to the source where they responded within 10 minutes of the phone call being made.
Miss Proudfoot, that evening, were you drinking?
No, ma'am.
Had you used any type of drug at all, even OTC, over the counter?
No, ma'am.
And you had no argument with Sebastian that night?
No, ma'am.
You stated you put the dogs away into a crate before you went to bed. Is the crate located near the exit, near a door?
No, ma'am.
Would the dogs have barked if there had been an intruder or if Sebastian had left?
The dogs don't typically bark at me and Sebastian because they're used to us. Even if we get up, we come around, they don't typically bark. Strangers, they do tend to bark, at least for a minute or two to get attention. But no, ma'am, they don't typically bark at Sebastian and myself or Christopher.
What kind of dogs are they?
Morkies.
Question, where is their crate located?
In the area near my sunroom.
Over by the
In
kitchen.
your son's, okay, hold on. Is
No,
it
son,
outside
not
your
son.
son's room?
No, ma'am. Not
Sunroom.
Sebastian's room. Son. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
The sunroom. And that's not near the door?
No, ma'am.
Not near the front door.
It's near my back door, but not any of the other doors.
Yes, from what I've seen the layout of the home, it is near the back door, and they would have heard someone coming in and out that back door, correct?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
No barking. Do you have a chime or anything on your doors that would alert you to the door opening?
No, ma'am.
Miss Grace, could I jump
Question.
in for something?
Yes, please. And I want to follow up with
Mine
a
too,
question
Sonia.
regarding Miss Proudfoot's polygraph. But please, Lauren, jump in. Everybody on the
Thank you.
panel. Now is the time to ask the Proudfoots any question that may shed light on what has happened to Sebastian. We are not in a judging arena. We are in a fact-finding arena. We can then assimilate the facts and make deductions. Please jump in. Lauren Conlon is
Yes.
joining me. You can find her at Lauren Emily Conlon. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And now this might be for Brian as well. Yesterday, when the dogs hit and everybody's going crazy, YouTubers, internet, TikTokers, and we figure out it's not Sebastian and police are not involved, the TBI is not involved. Did you call the Proudfoots and let them know that this was not Sebastian? Did you tell them ahead of time that you were searching these areas? Did they know what you were doing, or was this specifically just through Seth Rogers?
Yeah, so Seth Rogers is Sebastian's biological father, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
he was there, and as Ms. Grace alluded to earlier, it would not have been typical or possibly even probable that he could have skeletonized after only a few weeks. So I'm not sure about the Proudfoots, but his father definitely did know. I also wanted to echo what Miss Nancy said earlier about the police. One of the reasons we got called in, there was a lot of social media personalities reaching out to us, kind of complaining that they didn't feel like the police were doing enough. But really, it's just what Miss Nancy said. It's that they're not under obligation to give daily or every other day updates. They are doing an investigation. We have been in very close contact with TBI, and I can tell everybody with 100% certainty they are on top of it. They are not letting their foot off the gas at all on the search for Sebastian or trying to find out what happened to him. The YouTubers and TikTokers that do live stream probably do the most harm. We appreciate the attention that they bring to things, but when you do a live stream, you don't have any control over what gets seen by potentially the entire world. So we can't tell people what not to do. They have free speech. It's their own accounts they're using. Not helpful to do live streams during searches like that. If you want to do it, do a video that you could potentially edit later, so that we cut down on the amount of misinformation. That's why social media is not necessarily your house. We go in and do search and rescue. You have to trust the process, like we do. We trust law enforcement is going to have this wrapped up probably very soon.
Brian,
Yeah,
however, I want to make sure that you are not encouraging citizen sleuths to stop looking, because I've had many cases where we put out the warning and they actually spot a missing person. I mean, I only have to point to Gabby Petito, whose remains were found in dispersed camping way out west by a citizen who had heard about the case. So, sometimes their information is wrong, but there is no way in HELL that I would ask them to stop. And I know that's not where you're headed. Yeah.
No, we don't want them to stop. Matter of fact, it was two citizen sleuths that found Riley Strain's bank card out by.
I am so glad she said that, because yes, it's true that somebody was live streaming and they were the ones that helped find Gabby Petito in Wyoming. The people that I have seen searching and live streaming at the same time are very careful. And I have seen when they see something, they turn the camera away. And they'll even mute the camera if they need to talk to their partner about whatever they're seeing. So they're being very, very careful, guys. I think that there's nothing wrong with live streaming while they're searching. I think it's a safety precaution for them, as well as, people that are watching can see, what they're doing. They're out there, boots on the ground, and maybe they'll see, a piece of clothing that the searcher missed. You never know. But I don't see anything wrong with it. That was one of the things that I didn't agree with this guy, which later blew up into a big, huge mess. Somebody even said earlier in chat that it became a huge mess with the Cajun Navy. And this guy in particular had some shady things going on. So let's continue.
The bank of the Cumberland River
That's
in
right.
Nashville. So, like I said, they do provide a service. My only suggestion was maybe not doing live stream, maybe just video, and then you can edit and post later. Just a suggestion.
Hey guys, I don't want to see anything edited. I want to see the whole thing. No edits, no airbrushing, the real deal. But that's just me. I want to go back to Katie Proudfoot. This is Sebastian's biological mother, Miss Proudfoot. What questions were you asked during your polygraph?
I was asked if I knew where my son was. I was asked if I hurt him. I was asked if I had hurt someone, among a few other questions.
And Mr. Proudfoot, you have volunteered to take a poly?
Yes, ma'am.
If I were to set up a poly for you, would you take it?
Name the place and time, ma'am. I'll be there.
And you're headed back to Memphis right now. Are you in?
And she did name the place and time, and he didn't go. He ended up doing it with TBI or something, I guess. The one that he did end up taking, but he didn't go to Nancy. And I just wanted to say, it's not that I fault him for calling the sheriff. It's him. I guess I'm just tired of him telling that story over and over and over and over again. Why he feels he needs to tell us that he called the sheriff directly because they get transferred if they call 911 because they don't live in the city limits and blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, that really irritates me. If I had a friend in my contacts at the sheriff's department, I would probably call too. I'd probably call them too, because it makes you feel as though you have someone you can trust that's listening to you, right? So I get that. I do get that totally. I don't know if I'd think of it at the time. I'd probably just end up calling 911, but I get why he did what he did.
In your RV right now?
I am in my RV. We are not disclosing our current location just because of safety reasons, due to the YouTubers, the Facebookers out there that have sent some very heinous, threatening information and things of that nature, threatened to be outside of our house, all kinds of nasty things. So we're not disclosing our location at this time, unless you're law
Miss
enforcement.
Proudfoot, is
or
that
you need
one
to-
of the reasons you left the home?
One of them, yes, ma'am.
Question to you guys. When police came in and processed your home, did they look with, for instance, luminol? Did they check? What did they do when they searched your home?
They thoroughly searched my home with many different things. They removed some things for the dogs to hold the scent, and for Sebastian's DNA. I know that they used thermal
night imagery.
night vision, thank you. And I don't know exactly all of the tools that they used, but I do know that multiple different
searches were done on my home by many different people, detectives, sheriffs, and a few others.
Yeah,
Even
I'm
the
not gonna.
dogs.
I wouldn't swear that the forensics folks showed up or not, because there were so many folks in and out of the house that it was
Every
just,
time.
hi, I'm so and so with law enforcement. I'm so and so with law enforcement. Okay.
Every time they've said we need to look, or please do.
Does Sebastian have a hardwood floor or a carpeted floor?
In his bedroom,
Carpet.
Yes. Carpeting.
Carpet.
Did they remove any carpeting?
No, ma'am.
Do you feel confident they searched his bathroom?
They did.
Yes, ma'am, they did.
When you state that they removed items for the scent dogs, what did they take?
Clothing, a blanket that he used like every day, and a few other items of his, toiletries, like his brush.
Lauren Conlon joining us, investigative journalist. Lauren, again, thank you for being with us. And earlier you were hearing sound from WSMV 4. I understand you have another question.
Oh, I mean, I guess I didn't quite get the clarity I wanted, in the sense that, did the Proudfoots know that this search was going on with the Cajun Navy? Were they being called? Were you guys being alerted about this? Did you hear from a YouTuber that they found something, that the the search dog started jumping? Or, were you just kind of blind to all of this? Just, over in your corner doing your search?
No, ma'am. So here, to set that record straight and help the United Cajun Navy. So somebody's got a picture out there saying that we were enjoying a dinner, when we're actually out there, got flyers at a dinner table because we needed to eat. My wife was on the phone with the Cajun Navy. That's how the Cajun Navy was brought in. And we talked to the president of the United Cajun Navy. He put us in touch with their team that was here locally in Nashville. Then that young lady reached back out to us, gave us some more information. We gave her some more details. Then they said they would start a search, but we also had them get in direct contact with the TBI agent, as well as Sumner County's Sheriff's Department. We provided all that information. They reached out to them, got some information. They pushed outside of the areas that had been searched already, conducted a search. Somehow or another, they linked up with the bio father, who supposedly got a tip from somewhere. Whether or not it was credible or not, we don't know. But it led them to searching on federal property without permission, which is where we have been informed at some point that there was allegedly a hit on something, but turned out to be nothing. And they were asked to leave the property immediately, or the cops are going to be called, because it was trespassing based off of a tip that the bio father received.
Yeah, to Brian Trasher, VP of Cajun Navy, let's clear it up. Isn't it true this is on federal property that had been closed off? It was a hurricane site earlier. It was also, yes, thank you. And it was also near railroad tracks, and some homeless people had been living there, and apparently one of them had died, and we believe that is what the dogs were hitting on. Is that correct?
Yeah, all the above is correct. And we did not gain access to the property. It had already been open when we got there. I'm not sure how entry was gained, but yeah, everything above it that you just said was correct.
Guys, the search for Sebastian goes on. If you have information, if you know or think you know anything about this beautiful, young, autistic boy, please call TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, 800-TBI, FIND, T Tennessee, B Bureau, I, Investigative, TBI, FIND, 1-800-TBI, FIND. That's 800-824-3463. Please join us in the search for Sebastian and lift up your prayers. This boy will be found. Goodbye, friend. Guys, thank you for watching Crime Online with Nancy Grace here.
Okay, so that was in my opinion, a good interview, and I liked what Green Jewel said. I like these earlier interviews. They're raw, they're less rehearsed. Um, I like that, and we saw a lot of emotion as well. Except not a whole lot of emotion from Katie and Chris today. That's what made me wonder if they had taken something so that they wouldn't, um, I don't know, be, I think Chris realizes, he can come off, well, he has said he's brash, you know, so I think he realizes he can come off badly. And when you're on national TV, you don't want to come off like that. And I, I she was asking some pretty tough questions, right? And he answered most of them. So, um, you know, I think the only thing that's out there that's now making me wonder is the scent again. Um, I I keep going back and forth, back and forth. So, um, I stand on that there's no scent because law enforcement said it, and um, they even told Nancy Grace the same thing. I heard that it was false positive. There really was no scent. And then I hear other things, so it's really confusing. Um, Chai says, agreed, non-rehearsed. Chris lied about the polygraph. He's obnoxious, and I really think he was at work. I can't stand him, but don't think he's involved. Yeah, he's not my favorite person either. Um, Good point. National show debut. It never happened again, though. Wonder why. Um, what I heard, wasn't it Seth that said that um, Nancy only wanted to speak to Seth and Katie, but um, Chris and Katie weren't having that. So she ended up having to do, she did one with Seth earlier, and then she had to do one with Chris and Katie together. And I think she came into this interview because it was very clear that she had watched other interviews. She had said so, and some of the things she brought up, you could tell that she had watched other interviews, right? So I think she knew how Chris could be. And I think she came into this interview with the idea that she was not going to let him do that. He didn't talk for a long time in the beginning of this. So, um, I agree with you, Chai. He is brash as an understatement. Well, I actually looked up that word because he kept saying, he said it many times. I'm brash but respectful. And if you look up the meaning of brash, it means rude and disrespectful. So you can't be brash and respectful at the same time. It's not possible, you know. So yes, Chai, it is an understatement. It really is. But anyway, I want to quick let you guys know we're going to continue tomorrow again with, let's see what the next one is. Seth, News Nation with Vargas. Okay, that's the next one in line. But I also wanted to let you guys know we are very close to 500 subscribers. I know I'm a really small channel. I'm trying to grow. I've been doing my very best to grow. So, hit the like and subscribe button. Please tell your friends, share it for me. Because when we hit 500 subscribers, I am going to um, pick one lucky subscriber to win a nice fall box of my homemade soaps that I also make in my spare time, which I haven't been doing much up lately, but I've got plenty. So, all right. Well, I really appreciate you guys. Oh, that's interesting. I heard maybe permanent restraining order between KP and Seth. Not sure if true. That'd be kind of tough, wouldn't it? I mean, if Sebastian's not in the picture, I guess it wouldn't be tough, but who would have done it? Do you know who did it? Did Seth do it on Katie? I'm just wondering. Um, thank you, Green Jules. I appreciate that. I'm trying to be objective, as much as I can be. But let's face it. There's not many people who like Chris. I'm just gonna say that. Does it mean he's guilty? No, it does not. And I'm not going to pull any punches about the fact that there are things about him that I really can't stand. I can't. This old lady, yeah, I would not want to meet him on the street. You just don't get along with that type of person. All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you for watching another episode of Granny's Crime Busters. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and even share the content. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms at YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We really appreciate you guys, and you can also email us at granniescrimebusters@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.